But I think networking, like we were talking about too, like that is like the number one thing that like you need to try and do. And also I feel like people think that they need to have like the best of the best, like what we were talking about before, like we started like having the best microphone for podcasting or things like that. I feel like people when they start YouTube, they think they have to have like the highest like quality camera. Like I started YouTube on my MacBook, like that had the worst camera ever. Um, but yeah, I feel like people just think you need to have all these things because that's what a lot of people say, but like you really don't. And like you can start with anything. Like you can start just on your phone and like filming on your phone and editing on your phone. Um, yeah, I feel like you don't need to have all these things that people tell you. And a fun thing to do is like if I go back to my first video that I posted like 6 years ago, I mean, it's very cringy, but seeing like the evolution of like my content and me as a person has been really fun.
Hi, friends, it's Kayla Moran, and welcome back to the Let's Get Candid podcast. I am apparently now the queen of late night intros and last minute intros because it's Wednesday at 9:30 at night, and this episode will be going live tomorrow, so on Thursday, April 7th, the day you're listening to this. And I love doing a game time intro because I've had time to do it other days this week, but I really love just giving you guys the raw, like how I'm really feeling, how I'm really doing lifetime, like real-time life updates in these intros. So game time intro yet again. I was actually pretty good last week, but this week we're back to these last minute ones. But honestly, everyone keeps asking me how I'm really doing or if I'm excited to graduate because it's in 6 weeks. Sorry if the train is making a lot of noise behind me. This is what happens when you do a game time intro. But honestly, I keep being asked if I'm okay, and I'm really struggling with this question more so than usual because normally we just like casually are like, yeah, I'm doing well. How are you? I'm doing good. How are you? And I always say that even if I'm not really doing that well, but lately I'm doing okay. Like I say I'm doing good to like most people, but if like someone who really knows me asks, the answer is I'm doing okay because I'm just, I feel like I'm just going through the motions. Like, does anyone else feel like this time in the semester, especially like a graduating semester, like if you were graduating high school or when you were graduating college and just like you were so close to being done that you are mentally just over it and emotionally just over it and like you're just going through the motions and going one day at a time? Because that's where I'm at. And I've been in this place for quite a while now, but it's really just hitting me and I feel guilty. My therapist is going to have a trip tomorrow with me, but like I just feel guilty for feeling just okay when I have so many incredible things happening in my life and so many amazing opportunities coming my way. And if you watched my TikTok this week and my Instagram, I'm going to be published later this summer. An excerpt of my thesis, my expository, is going to be published. I got word this week, something that this has been a goal of mine since a year ago when I conceptualized this paper, and I'm drafting another article for them that will be published in May on my story for a column that they do, Tell Me a Story. And there is so much noise going on behind me. I am so sorry, but like I kind of don't want to redo this intro because I want it to be from the heart. So please excuse any crazy noises behind me if you can hear them. Sometimes you can't, sometimes you can. But yeah, honestly, I feel really guilty right now, and I don't know why, because I've worked so damn hard for everything that I have, and I shouldn't feel guilty for celebrating those accomplishments. Like I tell you guys all the time to celebrate your small wins and the big ones, and like these are some big ones and I feel guilty for celebrating them. And another thing that I've been feeling guilty about, it actually made me cry when I was home over spring break talking finances with my mom. But I'm one payment away from paying off my bar trip to Europe this summer. I went to Europe for 3 weeks, and I am essentially cleaning out my savings account to go on this trip. But that was always the plan. That was the goal, you know. that I was going to, all the money that I saved up working while I was in law school and the summer on the semester before law school that I worked, that spring of 2019, all of that money that I started saving January of 2019 forward, like the whole point was that I was going to use that money to travel for a month after the bar exam when I graduated from law school. But I feel guilty that my bank account's going to be essentially at zero when I return. And this includes spending money and everything. So like this is a decent chunk of change. And after I come back from the trip and I share my guide on where I went and what I did and how I did it, all of that, I will tell you the numbers, but I don't feel comfortable giving to you those to you at this moment. But like, I mean, it's a big number, but I've been working really hard for 3 years for this. And that was always the plan. So why did I feel guilty and like I wasn't good enough and I had nothing to show for myself? Because I was calculating my budget for the summer, and I realized I wasn't going to have any money because I wasn't going to be working anymore. And I've been working every day since I was 16, with the exception of internships. And my first semester of law school and first semester of college, I didn't work because the first year of law school, like, you're not supposed to. And then the first year of college, my parents allowed me not to, so I could adjust to college life and being away. But every other year for the last almost decade, I have worked. And it's weird. It was just a really, like, I started crying. My mom was like, why the hell are you crying? And I was like, I just feel weird. Like, I feel like guilty and like I have nothing to show for myself. And she's like, you're graduating from law school and you're getting to go to Europe for 3 weeks. And you're paying for it completely on your own. We're not helping you 1 cent. Like, that is an incredible accomplishment. Why are you crying? And I was like, why am I crying? And that's kind of just where I'm at. Like, I've been that way kind of since then. For the last few weeks, like, I just feel like I'm just going through the motions and I'm kind of in a fog and I feel okay. And I feel guilty for wanting to be happy and having things to celebrate, because part of me feels like I shouldn't have anything to celebrate, which I don't know if that's just my depression rearing its ugly head or like something bigger is going on. But honestly, I think I'm just burnt out, and we all experience burnout at some point. I actually would love to do an episode on burnout with a therapist sometime soon. But yeah, I feel really burnt out. Like, the last 3 years have been exceptionally difficult. And I was asked to speak by the admissions office of my law school at the Admitted Students Day panel last Friday. And one of the prospective students asked us at the end of the panel, what is one thing we are most looking forward to being done with law school? And one of my classmates answered, this building, which is very true. But for me, it was just like, if I had all the time that I spent on school to devote on other things, I would be so much further in life right now. And like, that's not to say that I won't get there, because I will sooner than I imagine. And I can firmly say that. I firmly believe that, because I've been doing a lot of the legwork while I've been in school, and I have a lot of big goals and big plans, and I'm a visionary. But like, I wouldn't have these ideas. I wouldn't know what I want to do with my life had I not come to law school. So I even feel guilty for saying that now. And, you know, another student asked, like, when does the adjustment period end? Because I've heard that 1 year is an adjustment. And it's like, my class, the class of 2022, we had like 4 different adjustment periods because COVID happened 7 months into law school. So around the 7-month mark is when you finally start understanding and adapting to law school and like figuring it out, and you're like, all right, I'm good, like, I got this, like, I understand how to do this now. But right when that was happening and we finally started feeling ourselves and getting into a groove, COVID happened and we went online and things were so up in the air. And then when we came back in August 2020, we were hybrid, and then in January 2021 we were pretty much remote, and then now we're back in person. And like, it was like masks or no masks, or, you know, there was so many different like changes that happened while we've been in law school for just 3 years. And it's like just 3 years, but also it's been like the longest 3 years of my life, but it's also gone by so fast. So yeah, there's just a lot going on. And I honestly, I just think I'm overwhelmed and I'm burnt out. And so I'm doing okay. But there's so much going on in my life that I know I should be grateful for, and I am. And there's so much to celebrate, and I am celebrating them. But I just wanted to be honest with you guys and kind of share how I was really feeling. And honestly, the rain, the thunderstorm, and the rain that's going on behind me is like the perfect soundtrack to this intro, if you can hear it. Because yeah, I just feel okay. And I'm just really excited for next weekend. Next weekend is Easter weekend if you celebrate. And I'm going home for Easter, and I'm going on an impromptu vacation, a much needed vacation right before my last set of finals ever and before the bar exam. And yeah, I can't wait. I shared where I was going, I think, really fast once on Instagram stories a couple weeks ago, but I'm going to the Bahamas, and I'm just really grateful to my parents for taking me and my brother on this little weekend trip. Very much looking forward to just, toes in the sand, cold drink in hand, sunshine, and just relaxing, and the ocean breeze and paradise. But anyway, I'm so excited to introduce to you today's guest, Amanda Wan. She is a college YouTuber from Canada. She is the founder of Wan Media, a digital social media agency where she provides podcast and YouTube editing services. We talk all about how she got started on social media, her evolution on social media, and college in Canada versus the US. What else do we talk about? We talk about freelance work and founding a company and how she got into editing. And yeah, there's just so much good stuff in this episode, and I love following Amanda. She has become such a great friend and someone I go to for advice, and I just really enjoyed chatting with her. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear my episode with her. Wan Media has launched. Please go check it out if you're looking for a podcast or YouTube editor. Amanda's your girl. I'm so excited for her on this endeavor. And yeah, without further ado, meet Amanda.
Why did you start YouTube or social media in general? Was it YouTube first or Instagram first? And how did the idea of like, I'm going to put myself online and I'm going to share my life online, when did that start?
So I started YouTube first when I was 16 in high school. I had friends, but I didn't have like very close friends, and I felt like alone a lot of the time. So I kind of used YouTube as like an outlet to get like my thoughts, emotions, and like creativity out. And I was one of those kids that like watched YouTube religiously, like Lo Anthony, Andrea Russell, like Bethany Moda, like those times. So like I was like, oh, like if these people can do it, I can do it. So that's kind of like where I started. I didn't tell anyone about it because I was like, no one is finding this out. And then they eventually did. And then I stopped my YouTube because I was like, oh my God, everyone knows. So I just stopped doing it. And then I restarted when I was like 19, I think. So yeah, I started to like use it as, I guess, like an online diary or journal. And now it's evolved into like whatever it is now. But yeah, that's initially why I started. And I was stressed about it, but I was like, oh, like if I don't tell anyone, no one's gonna know. But obviously that's not the case.
Yeah. So how old are you now? How long have you been doing YouTube?
I'm 23.
Okay.
Sometimes I forget my age with the pandemic. I'm like, what? How old am I?
No,
Yeah.
I'm 24 and I feel like I'm so much older because life experience, but then I'm also the youngest in my class by a lot. So then I'm like the baby. And then also with COVID too, I'm just like, how old?
Exactly. But yeah, so I'm 23. I started when I was 16.
Yeah, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you start like sharing like, okay, I do YouTube and like talking about it on like, did you already have a personal Instagram and like at the time when at 16? Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I had a personal one, and I still like the same one that I use now is basically what I used when I was 16, but I obviously changed when I post. But yeah.
Yeah, no. Because that was when we were like 15, 16 is when Instagram started. So when did you start sharing, which is wild because like kids now have Instagram at like 10 years old. And
Yeah.
they're like younger and we're like, we didn't get that until we were already in high school.
Yeah.
Which I'm very grateful for. That's a whole other conversation. But when did you start sharing on Instagram? Like, hey guys, post a YouTube video or like that you are on YouTube. When did you publicize that?
not until I was like 19. Um, so when I started my new channel, that's when I started posting about it. But I did this whole thing. Like I was like, if you're gonna make fun of me, blah, 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 like this whole like rant. Because in high school, people did make fun of me. And like that's why I stopped, because like people would like watch my videos and they would memorize like a line that I said in it and come to school and like mock me about it. So I was like basically trying to tell them like, if you do this, I don't care anymore, even though I like deep down I did care. But yeah.
So kids are so mean. And it's funny, I actually started on YouTube as well at that time. There's only like 3 videos up on a channel that I don't use anymore. And I stopped not because of the fear of people finding out or because I was bullied, like anyone knew or does know. But I was like, actually, like, I don't like this. And I think a lot of it had to do with my mental health and just that I wasn't in the right headspace to do it. But now, and then a couple years later, so 4 years ago in college, I started my blog. And it's similar to you with YouTube. Like my blog is my diary. You can go back and see how much I've grown, how much I've evolved, how like the progression of it through my blog starting all the way back in 2018, 2019, which is really cool to be able to look back and be like, wow, and so I understand that experience. And I didn't start sharing it until like 2020, also like mid-pandemic. I was like, oh, like I can talk about this now. Like it's cool to do.
Yeah.
So I never got like bullied or anything for it. But now looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have stayed consistent with YouTube when I started it, because since I was 15 years old, I wanted to be a part of this. I wanted to do it. And I still am, 7, 8, 9 years later. And it's crazy. So I admire you and the people who started around the same time as, we all kind of started around the same time. We just took pauses in different places and like mediums. But how has being online shaped who you are today? Because I know you're in college. I want to ask you what you're studying and, choosing to go to college and all your college experience and sharing it online, but also you have built an entire career on social media as well. So yeah, why'd you go to college and what are you studying in college?
Yeah, so I'm in my last semester right now, which is really exciting. I'm studying communications. Honestly, I didn't want to go to college initially, but I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. I feel like a lot of people like are set in stone, like, oh, this is what I want to be, or like, this is what I want to do. And I was just like so confused because like I'm the type of person that changes like all the time. Like for 3-4 years, I was like, I want to work in like the music industry. And then that changed. And then I wanted to work like only in social media. And then that changed. And like I was flipping and flopping. So I was like, okay, like let me just go to like university, get a degree, and like figure it out after. So that's why I went, honestly. And yeah, I'm in my last semester, which is exciting and weird because I feel like I'm sure you can relate to, like, we've been in school since we were like 5. Like,
I don't even want to talk about it. So.
Yeah. Like it stresses me out.
No, it's funny. Like I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. So it wasn't like this like crazy thought for me. Like, all right, high school, go to college, finish college, go to law school. But there were pauses in between where I wasn't in school. Like I graduated a semester early. So I had like an 8-month period off before I started law school. And I was like, is this really for me? Do I really actually want this? I was like, nope. Okay, I do want this. And then while I was in law school, I was like, actually like realized I don't want to do traditional law. So like, do I still need to be here? And then I was like, I realized, no, I do. What I want to do, I can actually do it as a lawyer and get the best of both worlds. So I made that decision to stay in it. But I graduate this semester too. And I graduate with a professional degree. So
yeah,
I've been in school for 22 years. That is absolutely wild. And I just don't, like, a part of me is like, okay, what do I do next? Because so I always find it fascinating why people chose to go to college. And did your college friends from day one know you were on YouTube? Like, what was that like, sharing that you do YouTube and sharing your life online and making that decision to share your life online?
Yeah. So first of all, I think college life in Canada and the US is like extremely different. So initially I started off in university in a random ass program. I was in women's studies. Don't ask me why. I really don't know like how I got myself there. I don't know what I was doing. This is like me like confused about everything. I was like, let me just take this program. I don't know. So I started in that, didn't make any friends. And then I switched to communications. And when I switched to communications, I already had one friend that I knew since elementary school. So I was like, okay, like being introverted, I don't like talking to people. So I was like, I'm just gonna be like with her and like that's it. Um, Obviously I ended up like making more friends and like they would follow me on Instagram, and then on my Instagram, everything's there. So they kind of all like found it themselves. But I feel like everyone's more mature nowadays, and like YouTube is seen as this like cool thing versus like back then. So I was like more comfortable sharing it with people. It always is scary because like you never know like what people are going to say or anything like that. But like that's something I'm trying to teach myself. Like it doesn't matter what people say because who cares? But yeah, like I was able to share it more openly because I think it's more talked about and like more people are doing it. So it's like not as, I don't know if the word is taboo, but like it's not as like weird to talk about or stuff like that. So yeah, I think that was the question.
Yeah, no, I'm
Okay.
curious. Because like I was in, I know that the differences between the way Canada does it and the US does it are very different. Like that's a whole other podcast episode, how we're different.
Mhm.
People think that Canada is very similar to the US, and in a lot of ways they are, but there are significant differences as well. So
Mhm.
on a personal note, curious about that, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. But I'm curious, just like choosing to share it because I started my blog towards the end of my college career. So I didn't hide it, but I didn't publicize it either. So I'm
Mhm.
curious, like now, like we put it in our bios that we have this, but like back, it was still so new. And I love that you said that, like, it used to be this really weird, almost taboo thing. Like, and now it's like, it's a badge of honor. It's like, yeah, I do YouTube. Like, I'm an influencer, and it's really cool and exciting. And people always ask, like, I'm worried what my friends are going to think. Like, how do you get started? Like, and it's just start sharing. And if it's meant for you, you will find out, and like, it will happen for you the way it's meant to. And the
Exactly.
love and support you are going to come, whether it's your followers or your friends and family. The people who don't get it are going to go away, and that's okay. You don't want those people in your life anyway. Those who matter don't mind, those who mind don't matter. It's like that saying. So I love that you said that. But so you're on YouTube, you also are a content creator on Instagram, and you help a lot of people with their content creation on the side. You built a business, and I can imagine that being a communications major helps a lot with that. You have so many skills and so many tools, which I'm a big proponent of that. Like, just because you went to school for one thing doesn't mean that you can't do something else, and doesn't mean that the skills you learn in school aren't going to help you, even if you've seen that they're not connected. Like, for example, me and law and being a content creator. A lot of they can work together, and they're going to work together in the career that I'm building for myself. Communications is a lot more related, but how have you kind of created this business for yourself online? When did you start realizing, okay, like I can help people with content creation, with podcasts, with YouTube, as an editor, videographer, all these different, freelance gigs that people do? When did you realize, okay, this was a thing, and how did you kind of market yourself to provide those services?
Yeah. So it started off, I was like, oh, like trying to make like more money on the side because like being in school, working part-time, like you make money, but it's not as much as like for my lifestyle. I like to travel a lot and stuff. So like, I was like, oh, like I need more money. So I was like going on like YouTube, and I was like, oh, like how to like make money on the side, or like side hustles and stuff. And like a lot of people were like, oh, like people video edit for like other people. And I was like, oh, like I could do that. Like I edit for myself already. Like why not try? So then I went on Fiverr and I started like making my account, and someone reached out like within the week, and then I started editing for them full time. I don't work with them anymore, but yeah, so it started on Fiverr actually, and it's like a really easy platform to use, and like there's a lot of people always searching for there. So even if you don't have like a network or a community, like there are places you can find that. And then over time, I don't really know how I started working with certain people, but over time, I mean, I guess people talk. I don't know. But yeah, like and now I edit for like 4 or 5 people, I think. And like it also helps that most of the people I edit for found out that I edit through the same people. So like
it's all
if you like
it's like
exactly
you brought up Fiverr, and I know there's Upwork as well, different similar platform. But and that you mentioned you don't need to have a network, you can use those platforms to get you started, but then you start building a reputation and your network, and it's all word of mouth. And that is another common theme on this podcast, is networking and connections and the people you know. And I love that you mentioned that, like the 4 or 5 people that you work with now, one of them found you and they've connected you to their friends, and now you work with those other people as well, and that's your business. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. And so when did it really, like, because you were launching Juan Media, which is really exciting. So when did that idea to become, okay, like, let me brand this as a business instead of just freelance services that I'm doing to make money so I can travel and I can like live my life? When did you realize, like, okay, like this is a business, let me make this a business, and let me actually like make the steps to brand it and market it as a business, which you've named Juan Media?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about it for like 2 to 3 years, but I have a very bad, um, I have like a lot of self-doubt and like imposter syndrome. So like each time I would think about it, I was like, no, like I can't do that. Like it's not gonna work out, like whatever. And I would like talk myself into not doing it. And then finally, like 8 months ago, I was like, okay, you know what? Like I keep telling myself I can't do it, but I've never actually tried. So I was like, I'm gonna do it, like go full force, like, and just see what happens. So I'm like officially launching it in April, which is like scary and like exciting, but like also very nerve-wracking. And my goal is to like quit my part-time job in May and then try and do this full time and like see what happens. And I'm very like privileged because I do live at home still and I don't pay rent. So like I feel like this is the best time to start something like that because yeah, like if you don't pay rent, I have like very few bills. The only thing I pay is when I travel and stuff like that. So I feel like this was the perfect time. So I was like, okay, I would be like dumb not to start right now because if I start in like 5 years when I don't live at home, like there's so much more risk to it. So I was like, okay, like everyone needs this. Like people are messaging me and I can't take everyone because I'm still in school and like then that would like affect my school. So I was like, I'm just going to do it and like see what happens. So yeah, it's launching in April. I'm very excited and scared, but it'll be fun.
It'll be so much fun. And I'm glad you mentioned that as well. And I actually, when we're recording this last night, I wrote a blog post on the plane about settling and in relationships and in career, because they go hand in hand, why you should settle and why you need to take risks and bet on yourself. So if you're listening and anything that Amanda just said resonated with you, go check out that blog post. And I talk about it with a lot of different people on this podcast, but you have to take a risk on yourself. You have to bet on yourself. And we are super privileged, especially as minority women, but just in general, that in this day and age, if you live at home and you don't have if you live at home and don't pay a lot of bills on your own, and or you're not married and don't have children, this is the perfect time, whether you pay your rent or not or have a house. But if you're unmarried with kids, like you don't have anyone depending on you, this is the time to take a risk and start the business that you've been dreaming of starting, and whatever it is. And if it doesn't work out, you went to college or you have the technical skills to be hired later. And by the way, employee market, like this is the time that employers need us. People are hiring crazy amounts, and like you learn how to market yourself and your skills. You can work a corporate job by marketing your skills in the corporate arena, or you can be like, I have skills where I can freelance and be an entrepreneur and build a business on the side. And this is the perfect time to do it. COVID was a scary time for everyone, but it brought a lot of clarity to a lot of people that were like, we're valuable. We have all these skills. Why not try? And if it doesn't work out, we can always go back to what we were doing before or try something different. But we owe it to ourselves to try, because if we don't, we're just going to regret it later. And no one wants that what if. So you brought that up, and similar to me, I'm graduating and I'm moving back home to my parents' house, and I won't be paying rent. The only bills I'll be paying are my car and my car insurance and my credit card bill, which is my own expenditure. So I'm really lucky that all the money that I'm going to be making at work and on my side hustles, the podcast, Instagram, the blog, consulting, all of that's going back into the business, or to me, investing in myself, in investments, in stocks, in a house. in whatever I want to be in culture by traveling, because that's an investment in myself as well. So
Mhm.
I love that you mentioned that, and it's so important. And I'm really excited for you. I know, like, I see you all the time in Slack groups and different community groups, you know, looking for new clients, or I'm not taking any clients, but like, this is how I got started, and willing to help people out with how you create this business for yourself, and, you know, get on Fiverr, get on Upwork, just offer these services. You never know where it's going to lead. So I think that's
Mhm.
really admirable, and just, I don't know, it's really inspiring to me, someone who didn't realize that I could offer my services on a freelance basis for me as a consultant, um, helping people network and helping people build connections. Because that's something that you mentioned, like self-doubt and imposter syndrome, which I like to call it imposter moments, because they're fleeting, they're not a syndrome. So mindset shift, if you want to
Mhm.
feel that, feel free.
Yeah.
It's actually been really helpful for me. But, you know, we all have those moments. We all feel like we're not good enough, but taking the risk and like, why not? And I can help people do that, because even though there's days where I fake it till I make it, I am a very confident person, and or at least I try to be, and I try to help people
Mhm.
get there in the networking in the professional arena, because it helps translate to personal life. So I like that you said that too, that you know, you had a lot of self-doubt, you weren't super confident, but it was something you were passionate about, and you just took a risk. I think that's so important. And so I'm really excited to see where one meeting takes you. And I hope one day that I can be a client when I can't afford to pay you, because, you know, it is a very valuable service that you're providing, and you deserve to be paid for it. But yeah, and you also host two podcasts, not just one, but two different
Mhm.
podcasts. I want to talk about them. You host the Zillennial Girl Talk and then Behind the Girl Boss. So can you talk a little bit about both of them, and what they are, which one, like, I know one is with the host, a co-host, one
Mhm.
is by yourself. So which what are these podcasts? What do you talk about?
Yeah. So Behind the Girl Boss is the first one I started. I started it in 2019, I believe. So a while ago. That one's more like a business lifestyle podcast. And it only has like women on it, or I only have women on it, because I feel like a lot of women in like the business world don't get enough recognition. So like that's the voices I want to like amplify on my platform. But yeah, that one I usually talk to a lot of like social media creators, business owners, people like that. And we just talk about how they started, where they are now, and like any tips that they have for other people who might be interested in doing whatever they do. And it's actually been really fun. Like I've been able to talk to like people that I never thought I would talk to. Like for example, like Remy Ashton was like someone I've watched on YouTube since I was like 16. So like having her on my podcast, I was like, it was like a full circle moment. And then I had someone from The Bachelor on. So it was just like opportunities to talk to people that you never think you would talk to. And people always think like you have to have this huge podcast to like be able to talk to these people. And like you really don't. Like my podcast is not very big. And like no one asks me except one person. No one asks me, oh, like how many views, like how many listens do you have? How many of this? Like no one cares, because everyone just wants to talk. I've only had one instance where someone asks me and then they're like, yeah, no. But yeah, like it's been fun. And then I have this Millennial Girl Talk that I started with my friend last year. Um, that one's more of like a pop culture podcast. So we talk about anything within like pop culture world. And it's with my friend Siriana. We actually haven't met in person yet. We've only met online, and we met through, I don't know if you know Gals on the Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we met through their Facebook group like a while ago during quarantine. And then one day she was like talking about how she wanted to start a pop culture podcast. And I was like, oh, like I love pop culture. Like, let's do it. And then we just started it. Um, so yeah, that's the two podcasts that I have.
I love that. And again, connections, networking, putting yourself out there, meeting people online, they become your friends in real life. You get to
Mhm.
help each other by having them on your podcast. You know, you get to introduce them to your audience and bring in new audiences, because their audience comes to you when they cross promote, or through people's communities that they've built on Slack, on Geneva, on Facebook, through YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, whatever. You get to make friends and create businesses with these friends. And also,
Mhm.
even more cool that you've never met her in person, but you guys have become really good friends and you run a business together. And I don't know, I just think there's so much opportunity in social media that, again, go back going
Mm-hmm.
back to taking risks, like this is the time, if you are passionate about anything in the creator economy, this is the time to go for it. And it's going to take a lot of hard work, but if you really love it and you're passionate about it, it's going to be worth it. So I love that. And back to what you said about having like, it doesn't matter how many views you get. People don't care about that. They just want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
If people love talking about themselves, they want to share their stories. And for the most part, I think the majority of people, we do it because we want to inspire people and we want to help people. And they just, get a chance to share their story. And for them, it's just a conversation. And that's the beauty of a podcast is it's genuinely, you can build it as a business, but when you're starting out and you're small like us, like it's genuinely like getting to talk to people that inspire you and have fun doing it, and then hopefully inspire someone else. And it's really cool. So I love that you said that. And with that, you go to school, you work part-time, you run 2 podcasts, and you run One Media. How do you navigate it all? What is a day in the life of Amanda?
Mm-hmm.
How do you structure your day? What tools do you use? What resources do you use to help plan out your life so you can get everything done and still have time for yourself?
Honestly, because of COVID and school being online for like 2.5 years, and like right now I'm still half online, I think that's been like a blessing in a way.
Oh.
I hate being on school online because I'm just like, I don't concentrate, but it has helped me in like other aspects because like between classes, like I can like edit something or like, I don't know. I just feel like being in at home like was really helpful for me and to be able to like balance everything. But it's also very hard. And I feel like I'm sure you can also relate. Like being a freelancer and like having your own businesses is not like a 9 to 5 job. Like you're working like whenever. And I feel like for me, it's hard to like kind of shut off. Like sometimes I'll be editing till like 2 a.m. and I'm like, I can't be doing this. Like it's not healthy. Um, so like I've tried to like kind of time batch myself. I use Google Calendar like a lot. Like that was the thing that I've been using for like the past 3 years to like help me stay on track of everything. Um, so yeah, that's basically the main thing I use because I just plan everything on there. And then like for example, when you have like a Zoom with someone or something, you could just invite them to it and makes everything easier and everyone could see everything. I always do to-do lists because I'm very visual. And if I don't see what I have to do, I won't remember to do it. And the most important thing I've been doing is trying to give myself mental health days or like half mental health days where like I just do nothing to like nothing for YouTube, nothing for podcasting, nothing for my like One Media, like nothing at all, just like chilling. Because I feel like if you don't do that, you'll get very overwhelmed and like you can reach a breaking point and like that's not fun because I've already had like a few instances where I felt very burnt out. So I feel like that was the best way to like allow myself to like do everything I want to do, but still make sure that I give time to like do nothing.
Absolutely. No, I'm a big proponent of taking at least one full weekend day off. So either Saturday or Sunday off. And like the most I'll do is laundry while I'm like laying on the couch
Mm-hmm.
or watching TV in bed. But like other than that, like I won't do anything, or sometimes I don't even do laundry. I'll really just do nothing, or taking like a 2 to 3 hour break during the day, or ending my day at 5 or 6 and just like taking the rest of the night off. So I'm a big proponent of that. And I'm glad you brought up mental health and prioritizing yourself and managing burnout because that is so important. And the way I worded the question, like I listed off everything you do. How do you manage it all? Like, it's not to tell people you need to be doing all these different things. Like, that is what works for Amanda. Having a million different things works for me. If that doesn't work for you, that's okay. You don't have to be doing a million different things and sharing them online. You could also be doing things in the background that people don't know about.
Yeah.
You don't have, it's like the hustle culture. Like, I'm glad that that's sort of starting to die down and we're focusing more on mental health and prioritizing ourselves. So I'm really glad you brought that up. And what are some ways that you focus on yourself and your mental health, besides just taking breaks? What do you do on breaks if you're doing anything?
Yeah. So I like to read a lot. Well, I just started liking to read. I used to like not be able to read. So sometimes I'll do that, or sometimes I'll literally just watch like Netflix or I'll watch YouTube. Something that I've been doing a lot recently is journaling, like either in the mornings or at night, because I feel like that's very like therapeutic and like a self-care like thing that I do. And sometimes I literally will just lay there and like do nothing because sometimes you just need that. So those are like a few things that I do.
Yeah, no, sometimes just laying there and doing nothing. I did that on Saturday and it was glorious. It felt so
Yes.
good. And I love reading Netflix, YouTube. I've been a big reader my entire life. So I'm happy that someone is getting into reading. Love it. But yeah, and then you also have wand candles. So what's that?
Yeah. So that's actually paused right now because too many things
Yeah.
happening. So I plan on starting it back up in the summer, but I'm a very big candle fan. Like I have so many candles, like literally just laying around everywhere. Um, and again, during quarantine, I feel like I started so many things in quarantine, but I was like bored.
It's time to start things, and then
Exactly.
as life picks up and you realize like, okay, what are you actually passionate about? And you pause at things or stop at things that you weren't passionate about. So
Exactly. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm bored. Like I need something to do. So I was like, oh, like it would be cool to like start making candles like just for myself. So that's how I started. I was like making candles for myself and I was posting them on Instagram and then people were messaging me and they're like, oh, like when are you selling them? And I was like, oh, like I wasn't planning on it, but I mean, if people want some. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. Then I was like looking into Etsy and like I saw so many people selling candles on Etsy. And I was like, oh, like I could start that because it's not like a full blown like business. It's like on Etsy. So I was like, hey, like let's just do it. So I started doing that and I sold over like 200 candles. Um, and it's really fun, but it's also very, very time consuming and kind of costly because you have to buy everything in bulk and like stuff's expensive. Um, so that's like, I don't know. When I restart it, I don't know if I'm going to restart it how I did, like with like all these candles, or I might just like, like 1 month I'll post like 10 and just sell those. And then like the next month I'll post
yeah,
like
you can do limited
another 10. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So that's my plan because I'm like, with one media and like trying to grow that, like I don't have time to like sit in my kitchen in my house for like 4 hours making all these candles. Like it's fun, but like it's not my number one priority. And maybe one day, when I'm making more money and I have more time, then I can like hire someone to help me, like. So yeah, my plan is to just restart it, but like not have it as consistent as it was before.
No, that makes total sense. I just checked out the Instagram for it. And it's super cute. So if you
Thanks.
whenever you start, I will definitely get one because I love candles and I love how you have like the little flakes of the flowers and the aesthetic of it, gotta love it.
Thank you.
But no, that makes total sense that, I think a limited drop would be cool. And that's a very popular marketing strategy nowadays too, because, supply and demand. So, but yeah, so you mentioned hiring in the sense of wand candles, but for wand media, is that something that you plan to scale in the future and hire people on to help you with, hire editors and other people, and you want to make it like scale the business, or do you want it to just be like a side hustle that is just you, that eventually becomes like your main hustle, but it's still just you?
So I think about this a lot. I feel like in the future, it would like if it does grow into like something that would be my full-time thing, I feel like it would help to have someone helping me. I don't think I want like to have like a full-blown like 50 people on a team type of thing, but I think like 2 or 3 people would be fun. And I want to stay like as a remote business. I don't want to have like an office space because that's very costly. I was looking for fun. I was like, oh, like I wonder how much offices cost. And they're so expensive. I was like,
it's the wrong time to do that anyway, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I don't know what I was thinking, like how much they cost, but it was not what I was like seeing. And I was like, I don't even need that. Like I can like work from a coffee shop if I want to, or like anywhere. So I feel like I would always want to stay like remote. And that also gives you the opportunity to work with people who don't live where you live. Um, yeah, I would love to like have like 2 or 3 other people because hopefully it will get overwhelming one day that you'll need to do that. But yeah, that's my goal.
No, I think that's a good goal. And I agree. If I were to ever, when I hire people to help me in my businesses as well, I would want to be remote. That way you can hire people from everywhere and you're not just limited to your city. You can have people who are highly skilled in their services that you get along with, and they could literally be anywhere. Again, beauty of COVID, silver lining that taught us we can work remotely. And I think a lot of people realize, ask my dad this morning, like now that you're half in the office and half in person, which do you prefer? He's like, I'm doing laundry and I'm taking care of the dishes while I'm at work. Like, I'd rather be home. I get a lot more done in the day, and our house stays cleaner and more picked up because I can do more. And I was like, I'm 100% with you. So speaking of parents, you know, I'm also a, you know, minority immigrant family. You know, I'm sure your parents were like, education's important. You've got to be successful. You've got to do all this. Like, what do your parents think now that you're pursuing all of this? Are they supportive? How have they reacted to this? And, you know, because you do live at home, so they see everything you're doing. How have they been there for you or supported you?
Yeah, honestly, they're very supportive. And even like my brother's going into like the acting route. So it's very like we're both doing very like like it's traditional, but like like you know what I mean? It's not like I'm gonna be a doctor and like that's all I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. Like even for you, like you want to be a lawyer, but you also want to do other things on the side. So it's not like one singular linear route. So yeah, they've been very supportive about it. I think my parents were just like, once you get your university degree, whatever you do after that, like you do what you want to do, and like at least you have that to fall on, like back on in case. But yeah, they haven't really said anything bad about it. They were there with me when I like registered it at like incorporated my business, which I did like a month ago. Um, and like my dad's coming with me to like the bank meeting because I don't understand anything about banks or money and stuff like that. So he's coming with me. I'm actually doing that next week to open up the bank account for it, which is like really weird. But yeah, they've been there like every step of the way, and they were just like, if you don't try, like you won't know. So I've been like grateful because I know a lot of like people's families like aren't supportive with things that they don't know much about. And I think that's what it is. I think it's that if they don't know about like it, they don't understand it. So my parents have tried to understand it and I explain everything to them. But yeah, so far it's been good.
That's so nice. And yeah, so it's funny you mentioned like the banking part and your dad going to the bank. So my dad is a banker and he does my taxes and all of that. I was like, you are my business manager until further notice, letting you know now. And he helped me decide, you know, how to open a bank account for any income I make on social media. And, you know, we're going to actually go over my taxes while I'm home this week. And I'm going to be recording a podcast with him on, you know, investing and how to manage money in our early 20s when we're starting to make significant amount of money once we graduate from high school, college, grad school, and we're working and, you know, LLCs and like that whole,
yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Perfect segue into what I'm doing later today. But no, it's super important. And it's so nice to hear that your parents are supportive because yeah, I think my brother is a marketing major and my dad and I were talking about this a couple weeks ago. We were like, both of us are actually very entrepreneurial. And I'm very grateful that you guys as parents really supported us in that. Like we started off on a traditional path, you know, college, get a marketing degree, get a law degree, but you're not restricting us to that. Like you're allowing us to explore our own avenues and our creative outlets. And my brother, like I mentioned at the beginning off air, my brother is a musician. He's really into singing and the drums and, you know, he's had a SoundCloud. I think he still might, I don't know. For me, my blog, my podcast, my parents are really supportive because they know we love it. And I think as long as your parents, like they may not understand it, but if you help them try to understand it and you explain it to them and you show them that you're really passionate about it, they're going to be a lot more willing to support you. Because like, oh, I see how her eyes light up, or I see how happy this makes him. That they're going to want to support you. They're going to have to support you because they're happy for you. If you're saying you're going to do it just because other people are doing it and it's cool, they're going to see right through that. And I think, you know, our parents, even as immigrants or older generations, whether you're Caucasian or whatever, you know, they still have a wisdom of older generation. They're going to see right through our bullshit, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, it makes me happy to know that, you know, as a minority, your parents are really supportive as well. But I think it's because they see how much you love it. That really shows. So I wanted to ask, because there's so many of us that started on doing this when we were teenagers and we're making this our business, but I'm pretty sure when we were teenagers, our parents were like, it's just a phase and it's just a side hustle. It's just a hobby. Now
Yeah.
they're like, oh no, this could be a business. And they're starting to see the creator economy seep into their generation as well. So I think
Hmm.
with time, will understand more. But I was always curious how other people,
Yeah.
parents react to it. But yeah, so I'm so excited for you with Juan Media. I can't wait to see what is next for you and seeing you get to build it and hearing about it on your podcast, the behind the scenes. And I'm excited to get to support you in it one day in the future. And of course, through sharing about it here. But for anyone who wants to either get on social media themselves or be a part of the creator economy in the behind the scenes like you are and support creators through editing or videography or photography or producing podcasts, or how do you start? We talked about Fiverr and Upwork, but are there some tangible tips or advice that you have for people who want to get involved in that?
I think, yeah, like Fiverr and Upwork are very good. I think networking, like we were talking about too, like that is like the number one thing that like you need to try and do. And also I feel like people think that they need to have like the best of the best, like what we were talking about before, like we started like having the best microphone for podcasting or things like that. I feel like people, when they start YouTube, they think they have to have like the highest like quality camera. Like I started YouTube on my MacBook, like that had the worst camera ever. Um, but yeah, I feel like people just think you need to have all these things because that's what a lot of people say, but like you really don't. And like you can start with anything. Like you could start just on your phone and like filming on your phone and editing on your phone. Um, yeah, I feel like you don't need to have all these things that people tell you. And a fun thing to do is like if I go back to my first video that I posted like 6 years ago, I mean, it's very cringy, but seeing like the evolution of like my content and me as a person has been really fun. Um, so yeah, I hope that answered the question. Just to like start and like you don't need all these fancy things. You can start with what you have and like grow that.
Absolutely. I mean, like Lauren Bosick says, launch fast and adjust. Another big
Mm-hmm.
theme on this podcast is just start sharing. I think I said that earlier too. And yeah, how have you evolved as a person? Like Amanda, as a person, how have you evolved since starting to share your life online and who you are today?
Yeah, I think I've been very, I've been able to like grow, and I feel like I'm still struggle with confidence. But if I compare myself to like what I was like a few years ago, I've definitely grown with my confidence. I've like it's been easier for me to share certain things in my life. I'm very like open on the internet, which I guess is either a good or a bad thing. But like back then, like I used to never want to share anything, or like I was like, oh, like people don't care. But now I literally talk about everything and anything. And I think that's like a fun thing to do. So I think, yeah, like just my confidence has grown a lot and just being more sure about myself.
Yeah, that's a great evolution. I think same for me. Um, it's scary, but you learn so much about yourself when you start sharing
Mm-hmm.
your life online, and you get to choose how much and how little you share. But personally, I share a lot too. I mean, I don't share everything, obviously, but I share a
Mm-hmm.
lot of my life. Like I'm a lot more open than most people. And are like,
Yeah.
how are you so vulnerable? Like, I don't know how to not be. Like, this is just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
If we were at happy hour right now, like I would be telling you all of the things that I'm sharing. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna share it on stories because I want these people, they're my friends. I want them to join me on these things. And then it's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
evolution of this podcast. And like, you're just, if you're listening, you're a fly on the wall to me and Amanda's coffee date.
Yeah.
Because it's a little too early for happy hour. But thank you so much, Amanda, for coming on. I am so excited, like I said, for Juan Media. Everyone go check it out and work with her when she's taking clients. So where can everyone find you?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for having me on. It was really fun. You can find me on Instagram either at it's Amanda Wan, and then literally in my bio it has like every like the links to like everything I do. And then for Wan Media, the handle is wanmedia.ca, I believe. And then there's gonna be a website coming once it launches. I'm still working on that, but yeah, thank you again for having me.
Of course, I'll link everything in the show notes.
I love when my guests bring up things that I love talking about, like networking, and they shared their experience with networking and how important it has been to them. That really just makes me so incredibly happy. And I also love that in the intro of this episode, I was talking about burnout, and then we briefly touch on it during this episode. And it's just, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but words of affirmation are my love language, and it's really validating to me to know that I'm not alone in feeling that way, and that other people have experienced it, and that it's totally normal. And sometimes we do it to ourselves because we put so much on our plate, but sometimes, like for Amanda and I, it just works for us. So don't do as we do. Listen to what we are saying and take our advice, because we've seen some shit and we've been there, done that, and we hope that by us sharing our experiences, you don't have to go through the hardships that we have gone through. And that's the beauty of this podcast. I love this conversation with Amanda. Truly, being on the mic is like therapy for me. I know I say that a lot, but I feel so much better having listened to this episode with her, and just I truly felt like I was at happy hour or wine night with a friend. It was early morning when we recorded, so it's a coffee date, but now as I'm listening back, it's wine night Wednesday. And I actually ended up editing this a lot quicker than I expected to, so I still get to go to bed early tonight, which makes me really happy. Off to go watch some TV and just relax for a little while. I also mentioned in this episode a blog post about settling. That blog post has yet to go live. It will go live later next week. So I will link it in the show notes once it goes live. Definitely go check that out once it does. I shared a blog post this week on my daily non-negotiables, so go check that out. It'll be linked in the show notes, and I'll link all of Amanda's socials. Go check her out. She just launched. She's probably taking clients. I think she is an incredible person, incredible resource. So go reach out to her, go connect with her, network with her, and see if maybe you would be a good fit for her to edit your YouTube or podcast. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening. If you like this episode, please leave a rating and review. Please follow at Let's Get Candid Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Share as you are listening and tag us so we don't forget to see it and we can reshare. It's the best way to grow the show. Share it with a friend. And thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. I can't believe we are almost 30 episodes in. This is episode 29, almost 7 months in. This podcast has truly changed my life, and I am so grateful for it. And having conversations like this with people who are my friends and inspire me, and I hope to inspire you. So thank you guys for joining me on this crazy ride, and I will talk to you guys next week.